The more you learn about the medical liability system, the more frustrated you are with it. Its pathologies are just endemic, no matter which perspective you're seeing it from, that of a patient, an insurance company, or a clinical care provider. And for that reason, it really has attracted an enormous amount of policy interest. It's also produced enormously little policy progress, raising the question, why is it so hard to make good policy in this area? There are several reasons that I'll round out today's lecture discussing. The main reason is that this policy area seems to be captured by an intractable gridlock among different stakeholders, primarily on the one hand, physicians, hospitals, and their liability insurance companies, and on the other hand, plaintiffs' attorneys and the patient advocacy organizations that they are allied with. It's been very hard for these parties to find common ground in this debate. And one reason is that the physicians and insurance companies have been narrowly focused on these traditional reforms like damages caps that are nothing more than an attempt to limit their own costs. There's no quid pro quo there for patients who are seeking fuller access to compensation. There's no plausible argument that those reforms make healthcare safer. And so this gridlock has continued. And state legislatures, if they've been able to get anything done, have really focused on very incremental reforms. But probably the most common legislative response over the last 10 years to liability has been the appointment of a blue ribbon task force to try to take the issue to the next level, producing nothing. Another reason why I think it has become so intractably gridlocked is that a lot of the policy deliberation has happened within the confines of a so-called malpractice crisis. We get one of these crises about every 25 years. What happens is there is an unforeseen run-up in the insurance costs that doctors and hospitals are asked to pay, precipitating loud calls to do something now. It's hardly an environment for cool heads to prevail and deliberate in a rational way about what the right thing to do is. When physicians and hospitals are threatening to shutter their doors to stop delivering babies, this is just not the environment that's going to lead to thoughtful deliberation about how to overhaul the malpractice system. It leads to stopgap measures like helping to subsidize their insurance costs or further limiting damages. A related problem is that physicians take this issue enormously personally. Although plaintiffs' attorneys like Barry Lang say, hey, malpractice costs are just part of the cost of doing business, to physicians, these malpractice suits aren't just a business cost. They really go to the heart of their identity, of their professional experience, their morale, and their emotional well-being. And this, again, in terms of the effects on policymaking, produces an enormous amount of impassioned pleas for relief, rather than thoughtful discussions about what the other side is seeing the problems in the malpractice system as being, and how you can move towards solutions that address all of its dysfunctions, not just the fact that malpractice litigation is expensive and psychologically scarring. The importance of physicians' complaints can't be dismissed. They are real and they have probably very real effects on care. But they're not the only thing we should be thinking about when we talk about liability reform. Another problem in this policy area inheres in all areas of health policy, and that is that it is very simple to sell simple ideas and hard to sell complex ideas. Things like damages caps are easy to understand. If the problem is that litigation is too expensive, make it harder for plaintiffs to recover large damages. That has a very easy appeal to it. It's something that any legislator can understand. A health court is very different. It takes several minutes to explain. There's lots of complexity to it. It's unfamiliar, and it's very, very hard to sell for all of those reasons in any policy environment, but certainly one in which there's an atmosphere of crisis and a demand for proven solutions now. Finally, the problem that this debate has had for many years is that the notion of liability reform and the notion of patient safety have been like two ships passing in the night. It's as though two different conversations have been taking place. On the one hand, there's this strong patient safety movement that acknowledges we've got an endemic problem with medical errors that needs to be solved. On the other hand, there are clamors to do less with litigation, to roll back the tort liability system as a force for deterrence, to roll back liability and to reduce pressure on doctors. It's only very recently that these two ships have started to sail closer together. And that's been in large part due to the very vocal leadership of the Obama administration in vocalizing the idea that if we're going to move forward in this area, we have to find ideas that can advance both of these goals plausibly, because patient safety is actually an objective that everybody shares in this debate, even plaintiffs' attorneys. If you look at the websites of plaintiffs' attorneys, you would be surprised to see how many of them market themselves as crusaders for patient safety. They believe in the idea that holding healthcare providers accountable for errors improves the quality of care. Empirically, they might be wrong about that in terms of litigation, but the key issue for the political process is the fact that everybody would like to see healthcare getting safer. We now need to explore ideas that have a plausible chance of doing that while also controlling liability costs to a reasonable level. The innovative reforms that I've discussed today appeal to people for that reason. They have the chance to do both. And what's promising in an otherwise frustrating policy landscape is that the conversation is now turning towards those ideas, and a recognition that if we're going to get stakeholders constructively at the table together to move forward, we have to start thinking about a quid pro quo, ideas that really can advance patient safety while making the care environment more tolerable for physicians as well. Fortunately, there are several good ideas out there, and we'll continue to explore them.